Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Mike Chu, a physical therapist. And yes, I am your alternative healthcare career coach. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the good, the bad, the ugly, the unspoken truth of the rehab world with Monica Fleming.
Hello Note is a truly therapist-friendly practice management solution with integrated EMR that will enhance workflow, efficiency, and patient care. Hello Note reduces error and allows you to spend more time with your patients. It comes integrated with billing. Claims are generated once a note is completed. You can bill with one click and a patient portal, which streamlines the patient intake process. Beautifully engineered and cloud-based for easy accessibility, the software works on all platforms. You can access patient records from anywhere. We also offer 24/7 support. HelloNote is the practice management solution that you're looking for.
What is going on, Alternative Healthcare Career Group? Well, if you are watching live, please comment live. Watching on the replay, please comment replay, because a lot of people were asking me, why do you keep on saying that, Dr. Mike? Well, because I just don't know what to say. But actually, it helps us with the show. If we are on the live and somebody comments there, live or replay, it actually pops up and it increases our view, or whatever you call that, viewership, or whatever you call that. So wherever you're watching right now, or watching in YouTube or in our podcast or in our Facebook page or in my personal page, please type in live or replay if you're watching in the replay. Because, of course, I want to know if you're watching, just so I could see you in the comment section too and give a shout out for you. But today we got a special guest. But before I introduce our guest and before we keep on going, you got to check out our sponsor for today, medbridge.com. If you want educational stuff, CEU stuff, check out medbridge.com. Use our code called alternative to get 40% discount. Not 10, not 20, but 30, not 30, but 40% discount gets, it's really good, right? 40%. Use our code alternative. There you go. So we get credit too. We get some brownie points, we're like, hello, MedBridge people, give us some brownie points, something like that, right? But of course, before we keep on going, this coming weekend, I will be at Orlando, Florida. I'll be speaking at what you call the Smart Success Healthcare Conference. It's going to be this coming weekend, June 5 and 6. It's going to be awesome. Because it's not just me, it's different group of people. This is a live conference, by the way. This is a much-awaited conference. We used to do this every year, but at the last year it was canceled because of the COVID and everything. But we really need a live conference. So this is going to be a live conference, and it will also be streamed if you don't want to go to the live conference. But I prefer seeing you, live, seeing you if you can be hug or elbow bump or just high five and then just clean your hands immediately. We can do that. But it's really nice because you get to interact with different like-minded people, winning people who are actually winning in this game. Because there are a lot of people who are actually not winning, and you want to associate with the people who are actually winning. Just like basketball, it's playoff right now. NBA, LeBron James teaming up with AD. Who else? Who else are winning? Milwaukee Bucks winning, stuff like that. So you got to associate with people who are actually winning in this game called Life, Life. So speaking of life, I just wanted to encourage you right over here. Where did that go? Here in, there you go. Camera, are you working? It says here, keep going. You're closer than you think. Keep going. Oh, well, there it is. Keep going. You're closer than you think. In the Philippines, there's this we have this. We used to live in San Pablo City. It's like it's somewhere south of Manila, and then we have this San Pablo Lake. We go. It's a lake that you walk around, and it's like a lake. You walk around, and sometimes when I'm walking there, when I was still back home, I'll be like, oh, I wish I could just turn around and walk back. When in fact it's going to be longer. But in my head, oh, I just gotta keep going because it's already close to walking around that actual destination. And you know what? Same thing in life. Whatever you're focusing on, whatever you're planning, you're closer than you think, ladies and gentlemen. Just keep going. And sometimes you just want to quit. There's nothing wrong quitting, by the way. If it's meant to be, to quit or to let go. But if you have a goal in mind, just keep pushing. You're almost there. It says here, keep going. You're closer than you think. All right, you're closer than you think. Let me check people who are there. Hey, what is going on, Sue? Well, I haven't even. Thank you very much for watching live, Sue. Appreciate you. There you go, Miss Sue. Oh, you gotta check out Sue. She's got this amazing class that she teaches. About home modification or something like that. So, and of course, Nate. Nate, what is up going on, brother? Nate is going to be one of the speakers in that amazing event. So you got to check out Nate Navas too. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in and let me introduce our guest for tonight. Let me take off this. Keep going. You're closer than you think, Michael. Keep going, Michael. You know what? A lot of people are asking me, or I ask, Captain David Bailiff. Captain David Bailiff is a physical therapist. And I ask him, why do you keep doing Facebook Live, Captain D? And he told me specifically, he specifically told this to me. Michael, I'm doing those Facebook Live, first of all, to encourage other people. But at the same time, I also get to encourage myself. And same thing with me right now. I haven't been doing Facebook Live lately, but sometimes if you just keep going, you realize you're closer than you think. And right now, I'm like, oh gosh, I just have to keep going. All right, so let's go ahead and keep going and introduce our guest for tonight. Where did that go? There you go. There you go. All right, our guest for tonight is Dr. Monica Fleming. Yes, she's a physical therapist and has been practicing for 7 years in the ICU. ICU, we're going to ask her, what does ICU mean? What does ICUP means, Yes, she graduated from Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida. And, I reached out to her. Hey, you got to come over here in our show because she's got this amazing podcast. You know what the title of her podcast? It's called Face Off with Fleming and Fowler. And she's a physical therapist, and her partner, Dr. Fowler or whatever, she's an occupational therapist. And they just talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the rehab world. And it's just amazing because I'm like, oh gosh, ain't that the truth? They're talking about, I was listening to their podcast earlier. And then I'm like, ain't that real? Ain't that the truth, ladies and gentlemen? And sometimes you just have to realize, find the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then just move on forward and finding the good, finding the bad, and finding the ugly on it. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in Dr. Monica Fleming.
Hi. Thank you so
what
much
is going on, Dr. Fleming?
How are you doing? Thank you so much for having me.
Well, first of all, thank you for coming over. It's my pleasure for you coming in here. So, could you please tell us what you do, really? Where are you from? I already said that you're in a PT and in an ICU setting. And then tell us, how can we find our alternative career?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thank you so very much for even having me on the show. I definitely do appreciate it. Your platform is definitely a platform that everyone needs to see, whether you're in rehab or not. So I thank you so much for, the opportunity to have me come and speak on your show. So like you said, I definitely am a physical therapist, and I've been practicing for about 8 years, and I primarily work in the ICU or the intensive care unit. I currently practice in San Antonio, Texas, and my specialty is pretty much with our cardiac patients or cardiac ICU. So patients who are on ECMO, have LVADs, heart transplants, impellers, all that kind of stuff. So anything cardiac related, that's definitely my zhuzh. I also was working in the COVID ICU last year during the height of the pandemic, which was very scary, but it was definitely necessary and very rewarding, especially being a physical therapist and being able to go into some of these rooms. Like you said, I graduated from Florida A&M University. Shouts out to FAMU. I'm a Rattler. And I actually went back 3 years ago to get my MBA. And that's been kind of like my alternative career situation, where I knew that at some point in time, there you go, FAMU, Peach, Stafford, yes, go Rattler. So my alternative was definitely to get my MBA, to start going into other revenues of the healthcare industry, whether it be consultation, marketing, sales, different things like that. Kind of the situation that brought upon me actually developing this podcast was because, last year I think was probably the biggest eye opener for so many of us in healthcare. And it was kind of really a revealing truth of the good, the bad, and the ugly that we see on a day-to-day basis, whether it be with direct patient care or whether it is, administratively or with leadership. And so, I developed this podcast as a, opportunity to be able to vent my concerns. And then my coworker, who is Alyssa Fowler, she joined me, and she's a new grad. So our dynamic is very different, where her and I in age are 10 years apart. So there's a huge gap with regard to the healthcare industry with our ages, but she's an OT and I'm a PT. And so being able to have those different perspectives, because a lot of times there are people that try to pin us against each other with regard to PT and OT. But the reality is PT can't exist without OT and OT can't exist without PT. So some of the different things that we kind of deal with regard to the good, the bad, and the ugly of healthcare that I feel like nobody really ever talks about and nobody ever really prepared us for, especially in school. There was a lot of fluff and we were all kind of drinking the Kool-Aid of, I'm going to be a physical therapist. I'm going to be an occupational therapist. I'm going to change the world. And it's like, you get out here and this healthcare system will slap you in the face. So it's definitely insane how situations like that work. And so one of the biggest things that we kind of, I will start off with the good. I always like to start off with the positive. So the reality is that we change lives, whether you work in acute care, whether you work in outpatient, whether you work in skilled nursing facilities, LTACs, the school system, pediatrics. The reality is that we help to change lives in so many different ways, without all the fluff and without all the insurance stuff and the productivity. We are giving patients literally back their lives. And so that's, I think, a lot of times the reason why we actually do what we do, is to make sure that we are helping to save those lives, because one day we might be in those positions, and we want to make sure that we have therapists that are around us that, number one, care what they do, but also two, that they care about the progress and the results of their patients. If you're not able to produce those results, then what you're doing is really not working. And so me working in the ICU and working with people who literally may have been a cardiac arrest in the community, and they come in and they can't talk, they can't walk, they can't even sit up or hold their heads up. It's kind of an ego booster for me, honestly, because I feel like a real-time superhero where I can come in and utilize these skills that I've learned in clinical practice, also in school as well, to be able to give these patients back to their families, with regard to their prior level of function. Even the money part of it, there's a lot of different ways that you can make a lot of different money with regard to doing, things on the side, consultation, also to, kinesiotaping. I'm actually a certified kinesiotaping specialist. And so I got that certification because I can tape people on the side. And if I want to charge you $5 to tape you or whatever the case may be, it definitely, rehab is a lucrative business, or can be a lucrative business if you do it correctly. And so I've definitely been able to benefit in that aspect of it. But even getting down to kind of like the bad and the ugly part, right? The stuff that no one really talks about. I currently have a student, and she's in her first semester or her first clinical rotation, and I have her in the ICU. And a lot of the things that I'm going through on my job and a lot of the things that she sees, she's definitely like, well, I wasn't prepared for this. Like, nobody talked about this, so things such as, kind of lateral movement, how, we come into this field with doctorate degrees as PTs and master's degrees as OTs, and even OT moving now into an OTD and having that doctorate degree level. But when you come out of school, you can get all the certifications that you want to, but if your desire is to move up in leadership, it's a little bit more difficult because we don't really have a clinical ladder like the nursing staff does and other different disciplines. Our job is very much so lateral. So you can go and get your OCS, you can go and get, do a residency. But the reality is that you're really kind of coasting through this rehab world, just kind of going at this plateau and not necessarily elevating. And then also too, with regard to, our pay scale, there are sometimes in certain jobs that you have, they don't update the pay scale to reflect the cost of not necessarily just the cost of living, but also to the amount of education that we have. I mean, think about it. We are graduate level clinicians. We are the experts in our field. And I think a lot of times people forget exactly who we are. I think on the outpatient setting part for PT and OT, I think, that realm is very well respected because you are with your patient population. But the reality is that sometimes in these hospitals, they just look at PT and OT as a lifting team. Like, oh, this patient can't move, just call PT. They'll come and put them back to bed. And it's like, do you realize that I'm really offering a skilled service that I went to school for and got in, hundreds of $1,000s in debt in order to do? And, you expect this result of just, I'm not a lifting team. Like, that's not what I do. And, sometimes you even have to remind these MDs and they're just like, well, I want to reeval. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry. Would you go to a surgeon and say the same thing to a surgeon? If you wouldn't, don't come at me like that. Treat me how you treat any other person in this hospital with respect, and also too, some of the gatekeeping that happens when you have people who want to move up in leadership or in a position of leadership. Sometimes, with regard to the bad and the ugly, you have these people where you come in and you do all of this work. I mean, you take on projects, you take on responsibilities, you take on the training of new staff members, and you're getting no extra money for this stuff. And, obviously you're trying to build up your resume, but the reality is that all of this work that you do, it really doesn't matter. It's not going to help elevate you, unfortunately, because the reality is that in corporate America, they promote the mediocre and the weak. That's really just what it is. Because if you look at it on the flip side, they literally have, if you are a hard worker, they cannot afford to lose you on the floor, right? Whether it be outpatient, whether it be SNF, ARU, it's very difficult to move up in leadership at times because if you produce results, they can't afford to lose you then to be in that office doing administrative stuff. And then who's going to take your place or who's going to fill your shoes? So that's another thing that kind of it's kind of a part of the bad and the ugly. Also too, kind of the disrespect that we kind of deal with. I think even now, again, with this past year being in COVID and working with COVID patients, there's just been this lack of respect for what we do as healthcare clinicians and as rehab clinicians. I kind of found and this may be very petty and that's perfectly fine, but I kind of was offended at a lot of the publications that went out with regard to healthcare heroes and thank you to all the nurses and the doctors. And I'm like, where's PT, OT, and speech therapies? Thank yous. Like, we're here. We're right here. Like, we don't, yes, y'all are giving us free food. We appreciate the free food. However, the free food does not pay the bills as well. So sometimes
Free pizzas.
Yeah. Oh my God, they give us pizza. I've gained so much weight in the last year because of all the food they keep giving to say thanks, as opposed to run me my money. You know what I mean? It's crazy. So also too, even with regard to insurance, payments or insurances, there's a lot of times where these insurance companies will basically tell an expert, you have 14 days to fix a massive stroke, and that's all I'm paying you for. Or this patient came in and tore their ACL and meniscus. You got 2 weeks to fix this. That's all we're going to pay for. And we expect you to fix it. But you can only see the patient twice a week. Like, what sense does that make? It makes you sometimes not want to do what you do or even just kind of give pro bono work on the side because you love your patient population and you love what you do and you really want to see people get back to their baseline or back to their prior level of function. So sometimes that even also comes into play where you are fighting with these insurances. And, we've all been taught the way you chart determines where your patient can go and the success of your patient, right? But the reality is that you can say all the right keywords that you want to, you can do the right thing, say the right things, but certain insurances, we all know, like, Humana, WellMed. These are just insurances that will not budge when it comes to what they are willing to do for these patients, unfortunately. And we get it that healthcare does cost money, but on the back end, you're going to pay either way. You're either going to pay up front and give that patient what they actually need, or you're going to pay in the back end when they are readmitted into a hospital, and then now you're fined by CMS. One of the biggest things I think that I found, I think is really the ugly truth of rehab, relates to burnout. I actually am suffering from burnout right now. And that was the thing that kind of sparked me to start a podcast to talk about it, because I think, you and your coworkers, you can kind of talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of your particular organization, right? But sometimes on a grand scheme of things, there are so many other therapists that are dealing with that same feeling, and they just don't talk about it. And burnout is something that none of my professors talked about. It was never even introduced in any type of professional, enhancement or performance course. They never spoke about burnout, that one day I may wake up and hate my job. Like, when last year working in COVID and how burnt out I actually herniated my L5 disc working with these patients, and all they want to give you is pizza. Like, pizza can fix your L5, it's insane. But the reality is
you could get the piece of pizza, put it like in a triangle in your SI joint or something like that.
Yeah, maybe stuffed crust will help. Just kind of shove it in there. But burnout is definitely one of those things where, it is real, and it will make you regret going to school for all of these years, getting these advanced level degrees, and it will also cost your quality of work, with the productivity standards on top of that. There are some days I used to come into work basically like a zombie, honestly, because I physically was burnt out, emotionally burnt out, seeing my patients die on a daily basis. You come in one day, you see, 3 and 4 bodies laying in the ICU, and you're just like, what in the world? I just worked with these people. They did perfectly fine. But not only that, you also have the productivity standards that are coming from, the chief financial officers of these hospitals, or the finance person, like, hey, we need you to charge this and this and that. And it's like, well, that's really unethical. You're asking me to do things that are unethical and that I really don't want to do. And so, a lot of that kind of piled onto each other really helps to spearhead burnout. So some of the things that I've been doing to prevent burnout, or to kind of get back in this safe space, is really not picking up any extra activities at work. If it does not involve a paycheck, I am not willing to do it. And I don't feel bad about it whatsoever. I've given away enough free services with regard to spearheading our ECMO rehab program, spearheading our LVAD rehab program. And yes, it's an amazing experience for me that I can put on my resume, right? And be able to move on and go somewhere else. But the reality is that doing all of that work on and off the clock did not come with any extra money. And because of that extra load of work, it definitely messes with you emotionally and physically, and mentally, and you become burnt out with your patients. Even this week, I was having a conversation with one of my patients, and she said to me, "You really look like you love what you do." And I told her, I was like, "Well, at one point I used to," and she was like, "Well, why don't you like it now?" And I was like, "Well, it's just a lot of things that happen where, again, you have these issues with case management having unrealistic expectations, physicians that are having unrealistic expectations. You're trying to do things for your patient, but they may not have insurance, but this patient is a wonderful patient, or there are no options that the physician can give them. And it really puts you in a tight spot because you try not to take your work home with you, but we're all human. We work in the field of service, and we're not servants, but we do work in a business of service. And so in that comes a vulnerability that can play on you, especially when you go home and you take your patients home with you. And so, so a lot of the things that I do, I go to counseling. I am an avid person of trust God and therapy, okay? Pray and get therapized, okay, by a licensed psychiatrist, psychologist, mental health counselor. Therapy is amazing and has worked wonders for me. Also, too, meditation. A lot of times, reading a book about meditation, or just learning kind of how to get in yourself to be able to figure out that you can't fix everything. We as clinicians, we definitely try our best to, put on that Superman or that Superwoman cape. But the reality is that there's a much bigger system that is beyond us that we're not able to sometimes break through with regard to the barrier. And even with regard to lateral movement, And with regard to burnout, sometimes not being able to move up in a position of leadership that you desire, and you have that experience to be able to help your department really grow, and teach the younger generation that's coming behind you. Sometimes that kind of leads to burnout as well too. So even sometimes, taking on students, I think help to refresh you and kind of get you out of a space of burnout, because these kids are hungry. They are, they are still drinking the Kool-Aid, because of course people don't talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, but you're able to get another fresh perspective to remember why we chose this discipline in the first place. They come in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and just some of the greenness that they come to the floor with, you're just like, wow, I remember when I was a student, and it's like nostalgia, and it takes you back, and you remember again why you actually chose this discipline in the first place. But then also too, accept the student. Yes, actually, absolutely. Give back. Somebody allowed you to work on their license, pay it forward. The good thing about students, I'll tell you this, that a lot of people don't realize, students do your work so you don't have to, okay? Like, they literally do your work. They can carry your walker, whatever. They do your work, pay it forward, because somebody allowed you to be on their license, to be able to be where you are. So it's not going to kill you for 8 weeks or a 13-week rotation to teach someone else. And think about it. You get to be the driving force behind this person's education that you may eventually use at one point in time, especially when you get older. The field of medicine is ever changing. And, as technology changes, so does the healthcare industry. But I want to make sure that whatever student I have, that I'm directly responsible for their success, because again, I wear the letters DPT behind my name. And if I pass someone who is doing horribly, then that's a direct reflection on me and my level of leadership with regard to that student. So again, just trying to deal with burnout. Also, too, even with your coworkers, I think there's been this unspoken tension between physical and occupational therapists. I really don't know where it came from, but even I remember Alyssa Fowler, who's the co-host of my podcast, she was even saying that in her school, she was actually taught in OT school that PTs are the enemy. And I'm like, what? Like, what sense does that make? Like, why aren't schools collaborating with PT and OT even more? And we operate in these silos, but then when we come in clinical practice, we're expected to be, BFFs. And it makes no sense, because it's just like, okay, we never saw each other on campus. We never had classes together. I had gross anatomy, and then y'all got whatever scraps was left, or whatever the case, vice versa. But, there's this kind of unspoken tension. And I think even for the field of physical therapy, since we are the more recognized discipline, I think that it is worthwhile for every PT to be an OT advocate, because when you help protect OT, it directly protects PT as well too. When you stand up to these physicians and you let these physicians know exactly what OT brings to the table, it definitely helps our whole entire discipline with regard to the field of rehab, to be able to be more palatable with a lot of the things that we do. OT's not just the hands, they don't just wash people's hair. That's not what they do. These are very highly educated individuals who have a specific skill set that physical therapy does not have. And that's the reason why they exist. So even kind of being gatekeepers of occupational therapy, I think one of the biggest occupational therapy advocates in our hospital. And I kind of deem myself as like an honorary OT. I'm not as creative to be an OT, honestly. I'm very barbaric. I'm, type A PT, barbaric through and through. But I love our OT brothers and sisters as well. But so that's kind of some of the things that we deal with regard to the good, the bad, and the ugly of healthcare.
Amazing. It's funny you mentioned about some people, companies, they promote the mediocre and weakness and everything like that. And there's nothing wrong being weak, but there's really something wrong being mediocre, ladies and gentlemen. I myself, I feel like I'm weak, and I'm not really strong as physically, but if you see a fellow coworker or someone else just being mediocre, that actually just puts our profession down.
Yeah.
And it just looks, bad on our actual profession. And no wonder they don't advocate for PT. No wonder they don't advocate for OT, because that's what they just see. A mediocre result. So it's very important that we ourselves, we have this excellence in whatever we do, whether it's a Medicare patient or a Blue Cross Blue Shield patient or whatever kind of insurance. You got to provide the best and the awesome service that you can provide, because the goal is not just to satisfy the customer, ladies and gentlemen. The goal is to actually wow and amaze them,
Hmm.
and that's how we can really stand up to the people who are questioning the skills of whether if you're a PT or OT or speech, or even with a PTA and a coda. I
Hmm.
have this awesome PTAs, and their skill sets are just amazing,
Yeah.
better than some of the other PTs or OTs that I've met.
Hmm.
And same, other way around too. You got this PTs that are just so amazing, new
Hmm.
grads, and then we've got this 20 year PT and like don't even know how to do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So whether you have a 10-day experience or 10 years of experience or 100 years of experience, remove that word in your vocabulary, mediocre, and
Hmm.
provide the best service, and everything will follow. And like
Absolutely.
what else? What Monica mentioned here, burnout. Burnout is real, my friends.
Yes.
Burnout is real, and self care is not selfish, ladies and gentlemen.
Hmm.
You gotta learn how to take care of yourself. We in general, we are what you call caregivers. We
Hmm.
give care. You cannot give what you do not have, like what
Hmm.
Monica was talking about. You cannot give what you do not have. If I don't have enough money to give to my kids, well, guess what? They're not going to be able to eat, right? I can give money if I don't have enough money. Same thing with caring. You cannot give care to someone else as a therapist or as a nurse or if it's a physician or whatever, whoever you're watching or listening right now, without having that in yourself. It's
Hmm.
hard to serve if your actual cup is not overflowing.
Right.
So you got to take care of yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Before we keep on going, we're just going to go on a quick break. We'll be back in a few seconds, ladies and gentlemen.
HelloNote is a truly therapist-friendly practice management solution with integrated EMR that will enhance workflow, efficiency, and patient care. HelloNote reduces error and allows you to spend more time with your patients. It comes integrated with billing. Claims are generated once a note is completed. You can bill with one click and a patient portal, which streamlines the patient intake process. Beautifully engineered and cloud-based for easy accessibility, the software works on all platforms. You can access patient records from anywhere. We also offer 24/7 support. HelloNote is the practice management solution that you're looking for.
Yes, that is actually Hello Note. It's actually the EMR that we use, EMR, electronic medical record, that we use in our outpatient clinic. So check it out, hellonote.com. And then when you sign up, just let them know too that you sign up and saw it through me. I get some brownie points too, right? So check it out, hellonote.com, because it's amazing. It also has a billing component for those people who are, like, how do I do this, Michael? So easy, just reach out to me. We'll talk about it. I'll send you a group message or email with the bosses there, and then they'll give you a certain. They got this $99 thing for the whole year. It's like it's no brainer. $99 for the whole year. It's just like less than $10 or $6 or whatever a month to actually start and learn about the EMR system. Better than printing out those forms and then submitting it to Medicare. It's so hard. Submitting it to the insurance. You got this piece of paper, and then you don't know if you missed a form, you missed a check or whatever. With $99, oh, gosh, it's a no-brainer for me. All right, so check it out, hellonote.com. But before I keep on going, let me just show you this video real quick, okay? Yes, that is called Rehab Fitness. If you want to learn how to teach a class, I teach a class personally. I teach it Tuesday, Wednesday, where's there? Tuesday and Thursday in an assisted living in Jackson Meadows in Jackson, Tennessee, and another one every Wednesday in another assisted living there in Jackson. So I personally teach it, and I mean, I just go live. I have this noodles. I have the TheraBand. I have some, 1 pound weight. We check their oxygen, their heart rate, and everything like that. And it's not perfect. I'm not perfect, but all I do is just go there, and then in return, we get some patients too. If they need physical therapy. But it's just amazing concept. And another thing that you can do is actually teach a class in your what you call this local senior citizen center or whatever, or like what I'm doing. We open up an actual outpatient brick and mortar clinic, and then we do therapy there, and then the rest is history. So if you want to check it out, let me just show you the video of our clinic. Where the intro video that we do. Yes, that is actually rehabjackson.com. So we open up our brick and mortar there in Jackson, Tennessee. So check it out. Because of those certification that we got from Patrice, we're applying it in our system, and then boom, we're gonna be just awesome there. So if I can do it, ladies and gentlemen, you guys can do it too. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be perfect. All you need to do is just take action. Just do one day at a time, one step at a time. Okay. All right, so tonight we are actually interviewing Dr. Monica Fleming. This is actually a physical therapist with 7 years of experience working as an ICU therapist. And she's got this amazing podcast and show. We're going to ask her too. So let's go ahead and bring her back in. Her name is Dr. Monica Fleming. There you go. So Dr. Monica, before you keep on going, I'm just going to ask you this crazy question called the fire question, whatever you call that.
Okay.
Can you please tell us what's your biggest challenge, not only in your work, but whatever in life or in your podcasting? What's your biggest challenge, and how did you turn this around, sister?
I would probably say my biggest challenge is letting go of control. I think a lot of physical therapists, we kind of fall into the stereotypical personality of very type A. We can be barbaric at times. And so I like to have control. I like to have full control of a lot of things. So that's kind of one of the things that I think has really challenged me, especially too in the past year. And I like to have full control over what happens to my patients, even though I know that I really can't control what happens to them, but because I want the best for them. And even too in our lives, like we love to have control, right? We love to make sure that everything goes the way that we want it to go. One of the things that I have had to learn how to do is that I have had to and this is going to sound really weird, I have had to learn how to let things just burn. Just let the building burn down. It's okay if it burns down, you can always build something else. So even from a professional standpoint, where when I was talking about, even gatekeeping and leadership, I've gone through this situation where, you may be more qualified than someone to get a position. You don't get the position because of gatekeeping. And, you're just like, you know what? I'm going to let the building burn down. If it burns down, it burns down. If the ship sinks, it just sinks. I know that I have a life jacket on the side that I'm not going to, be affected by this. But you have to, like, even with my therapist, she had talked about, kind of controlling what's in your circle. And if it does not directly affect my life in that moment, I'm not inviting it into my circle. And so I've had to kind of learn that even with patient care, there are just certain aspects of patient care that I am not going to be able to control. Yes, I may want my patient to go to an acute rehab facility. I may want want my patient to go home, but the powers that be, whether it's the physician, the case manager, the family, different things that come into play. And so I've just had to learn how to just let the building burn down. It's okay. It's not your building to make sure that you put up with all these buckets of water, but sometimes the building will burn, and it is okay. As long as you get out, that's all that matters. Because like you said, self-care is not selfish. It's definitely necessary, and it's needed in order for you to provide quality care and to be a quality person, not only to yourself, but also to your loved ones, your friends, and your family.
That is so true. That is so true. I love what she said, ladies and gentlemen. Letting go of control. And like what Monica said, Dr. Monica said, most of us here in the therapy world, we just want to understand everything. Just like anatomy. You want to understand anatomy. You want to understand the physiology of the body. Well, you want to understand your anatomy, and then you want to know every single pathway on that spinothalamic tract or whatever you call that. And well, guess what? Even in the car, even driving a car, you won't know every single thing there. Would you know every single thing in the human body? No. When you take a medicine, do you still want to know the pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic of the medication? No. What you need to do is just take that action, get out of the building, like what Monica said, and actually, let go. Learn how to let go, because sometimes that's not letting go is sometimes the part that we're analyzing everything. And the more we're analyzing it, we become, we have what you call this called analysis paralysis. And then we stop taking action. And then we're thinking, oh, I just want everything perfect because I'm a perfectionist. Well, no, you're not a perfectionist. You're just waiting for that perfect time, but it's not gonna come. So letting go. Thank you very much, Dr. Monica, for sharing that. Could you please tell us where we can find you, where we can reach you, and stuff like that? I'm gonna show
Absolutely. So on my podcast, we are the Face Off with Fleming and Fowler. You can see our podcast or listen to our podcast on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Spotify. We also do have a YouTube channel that we're trying to kind of beef up. So definitely go like, share, comment, download, subscribe. We are also on Facebook as well as Instagram at the Face Off Pod. And if you want to, reach out to us for, any kind of things, you can definitely email us at thefaceoffpod@gmail.com. And like I said, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook at the Face Off Pod. Also to wherever you listen to podcasts, we're definitely available on those outlet networks, as well as on YouTube at the Face Off with Fleming and Fowler.
Amazing. Any last parting wisdom for our friends here in Facebook and the podcast, also on YouTube? Any last parting wisdom for us,
yes,
Dr. Monica?
Yeah, just one more thing. One thing that I really want to tell people and that I really want people to understand is that it is okay if rehab leads you into another profession. I got my MBA because I knew, again, that my body was not going to be able to tolerate being in an ICU for 30 years. And yes, sometimes it may be scary because you may feel like rehab is all that you know, but do not be afraid to go out and get other degrees or other certifications and use that to catapult you into a different area. I'm getting into marketing now, which marketing, I never thought that I could sell anything like crack to a crackhead. That's just not what I do, right? I'm a horrible marketer. But when you get into a lot of different areas, we market every single day. We market our services to our patients every single day. Plus, we really use the art of manipulation, if you really think about it. I know I use manipulation every day to be able to get my patients to do what I need them to do in order for them to get better. And I use my powers for good. But do not be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone. And just because you went to school for all these years to be a PT, OT, and speech therapist, that doesn't mean that that's your end goal. You can definitely navigate with using your level of expertise in the medical field to basically bring in other revenue streams in different areas of income. So don't be afraid to step out there.
Oh gosh, that is so powerful, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you very much, Dr. Monica. Appreciate you. Did you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. And she said it's okay. It's okay if rehab leads you to another profession. That's the goal here, not just teaching you to find another profession, actually teaching you to get out of your comfort zone. That's our goal here in our group, Alternative Healthcare Career Group. Not just giving you these options, but actually teaching you how to get out of that comfort zone. Again, thank you very much, Dr. Monica, for your time and for everything that you do for stepping up, for leveling up, for starting that podcast. And I'm learning from you too. So again, thank you very much. Again,
Thank you
before I
for
let
having
you
me.
go, my Facebook friends, always remember the word fast, FAST. Letter F. Find friends that will push you to your next level, because you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with. So who are you hang out with tonight? I hang out with Dr. Monica. I feel like I want to start a podcast too. I think I need like somebody beside me, like
Yeah.
the ugly, the good, the bad, the ugly of the
Do
Filipino
it,
world,
do
something like that, right? So find friends, ladies and gentlemen, that will push you to your next level, because like what I said, you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with. So who are you hanging out with? I remember my mom would always tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are. And I'm like, oh, I have some good friends back home in the Philippines, but guess what? They're still the same. And I'm not saying they're bad, but what I'm saying is that, sometimes you have to find people who's actually going to push you to your next level. All right. Next letter is letter A on the word fast. Letter A is take action. All this stuff that we're doing, it's not going to do me good. It's not even going to do Dr. Monica good if you don't take action. Just take action. Take action by downloading their podcast. Go to YouTube. Go to whatever, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you're listening right now. Download their podcast, the Face Off with Fleming and Fowler. It's ain't that F and F,
Yeah.
Maybe what the F? Fleming and Fowler, something like that. What the FF, right? Something like that. I don't know. Just watch it or listen to it, to their podcast. Take action, right? You can have your camera ready. You can have your lights ready. I got some lights. I got some camera. But if you don't take action, it's not going to do us good. Take action, guys. Imperfect action beats perfect in action. And the next letter is letter S. Shoot for the moon. Why? If you keep shooting for the moon, you're going to miss it. You're going to be landing with the stars. Tonight, I kept shooting for the moon. Well, guess what? I missed it. I landed with a star named Dr. Monica Fleming.
Aww,
keep shooting, ladies and gentlemen. You are going to miss it. You are going to fail. Guess what? You're going to be rejected in the real world. I just got rejected. Every day, I feel like I get rejected all the time. But does that stop me? No. You just keep going, ladies and gentlemen. See, I got like an awesome star right now. Dr. Monica Fleming, PT, DPT, MBA, all those letters behind her name. Yes, and last but not the least on the word fast is letter T, is teach it. Why? Because when you hear it, you forget. When you see it, you remember. But when you're actually teaching it, you're actually understanding it more. And that's what Dr. Monica is doing. She's teaching people how to actually do what she's doing. And the more you're teaching it, the more you're actually understanding it. So again, thank you very much, Alternative Healthcare Career Group, my Facebook friends, YouTube friends, podcast friends. We wish you all the best. Again, be awesome, be great, be excellent, and I'll see you later, my friends. Bye-bye.
HelloNote is a truly therapist-friendly practice management solution with integrated EMR that will enhance workflow, efficiency, and patient care. HelloNote reduces error and allows you to spend more time with your patients. It comes integrated with billing. Claims are generated once a note is completed. You can bill with one click and a patient portal, which streamlines the patient intake process. Beautifully engineered and cloud-based for easy accessibility, the software works on all platforms. You can access patient records from anywhere. We also offer 24/7 support. HelloNote is the practice management solution that you're looking for.